So the talk this morning is about archaeology of the city and place. And as Skura had said, we've been in practice all our lives in Pietermaritzburg. And the idea of archaeology and architecture, to my mind, are very similar. For the architect, he knows the function and he's trying to find the form. With the archaeologist finds the form and tries to find the function. So I think the similarity is quite interesting. And as architects, I think we are always digging deeper into what it is about, and then form rises after that. So that is the first image that we are seeing, and of course the famous red brick of Pietermaritzburg. The next image, Kiera, if I can have the next image,
Yes,
please.
sorry, one moment. I think I just need to change the view of this.
Okay.
You can change to the other view, Kiara, if that's one is safer.
I think so, Skura. I
That's
think
okay.
I'm going to do that.
Sure.
Thank you. So the city, I think, in terms of organic description, it's really what I would like to call embryology of the city. Image one is the very beginning of the city. Obviously, there were settlements in the area, and slowly the city began to grow. That's image number two. And image number three is what we now call the north-south corridor linking Durban to Johannesburg. And that image clearly shows that. The image number four is the growth of that image. And then we have image number five, which is, as you can see, the city is growing quite nicely, quite organically. Then around 1928, we begin to see the city fragment. Obviously, there is land dispossession. And under the heritage spectrum, I think that has to be restored. I think it's obvious now that it has to be done. So understanding heritage and the city, I think we need to, what Aldo Rossi calls the object par excellence. So the city is the object of heritage. What is underlying the archaeology of place, and on top of that, we build buildings on top of it. So it's critical that we understand the embryology and how to correct itself as we develop the city. The next image, these are documentation of the city over the years. This particular one is 1945. And the next image, Kiera, if we can go to the next. Okay, so we are now around 1906, and we can clearly see the city beginning to emerge. There were a few steps before that. If we can go back 3 more slides. One more back. Sorry, if you can go forward again. So there you can see the little spots along the streets. Those are the first buildings that are built on the city. Obviously, the city has been set out as agricultural plots and not very dissimilar from Pretoria. So the image with the river on the top, all the makings of a beautiful city, and then the city begins to grow, and we see that in the next image. So you can see the city beginning to crystallize. And this is an image from 1906. And clearly you can see what is currently the city today. All the makings of a beautiful city. The next image was an image that we had documented just after the first elections. We were appointed as lead consultants, obviously to relook at the town planning regulations, the city in broad strokes. And our practice was really involved in the city center. And in those days before IT really took off, each one of those buildings were mapped individually and planned. And you can see the makings of that original embryology, and in 1999, what it begins to look like. And this is what we would call the object par excellence. There is a lot of talk of smart cities. In fact, there isn't such a thing as a smart city. If you think in the Middle East, there's Mazda, a very high-tech city designed by leading architects of the world. It has never really succeeded. So the existing city is the smart city. Historically, if you look at cities globally, it's not an instant city, but a city that got layers of meaning. And that's what Pietermaritzburg is about. The next image is the map with buildings that we have worked on over the years. So what you see in red are buildings sprinkled on the city. There is a famous book called The Invisible City by the Italian author, Italo Calvino. And in this book, The Invisible City, he talks about a conversation between Marco Polo and the great Kublai Khan. And what used to happen, the Kublai Khan used to invite Marco Polo to come to the palace every evening and to explain all the cities that he had visited. And this went on for several days. And at the end of the exercise, what Italiano Calvino was explaining, that it is not many cities, it's actually one city, and it was the city of Venice, which had layers built over centuries, and that's what he was explaining. So every city has got an archaeological layering of history, of politics, of economics. All of these social issues are all embedded in cities. So I think Italiano Calvino is absolutely correct. Incidentally, when Marco Polo on his deathbed was asked to confess that all the stories he was telling them was not true, what he had actually replied was, "I only told you all half the story." So it was quite interesting what he said on his deathbed. The next image. This is a particular quotation that I like. It's by Adolf Lewis. And what he's saying, and I like this as a definition of architecture, he says that a person walking in a forest sees a mound of earth 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, and something inside him tells him somebody lies buried here. That is architecture. So I think it is that subconscious, all those elements. In a very simple term, he explains what, and this is an idea that I subscribe to. In the present circumstances of artificial intelligence and the fear of what artificial intelligence will do, I think as architects, we must not back down. We must stand our ground, especially in the face of these mega companies that have occupied the space. And in recent history, we begin to realize that we can't really trust these mega companies. So as architects, we must not lose our space. We must hold our ground. And the idea that the technology is going to overtake our profession, I'm not too concerned about that. Art has always been a human invention, and I don't believe AI has human values per se. It is what we put into it. So as the recent Nobel laureate has pointed out, he is concerned about IT. And I think the journalist from the Philippines, Riza, she said as a journalist that we must maintain our space because the large companies, by and large based in the USA, are taking over that space, and we must not leave that space. So it's important that what Adolf Loos is saying, both the intuitive and the digital can work comfortably side by side, but as an architectural profession, I think we should stand our ground. The next image. This particular image was, if we look at the embryology of the city, there was this distortion of the city with development pulled away from the city center. Now, what we would call development and underdevelopment are opposite sides of the same coin. So where the city has been fragmented, it is important that we reconnect the city. And one of the requirements in our project at the time was to make linear connections to those cities, those portions of the city that have been fragmented from the city and reconnected to the city. And these major arterial connections that we proposed at the time have now begun to be a reality. So what you see there diagonally across the page is the entry, the economic corridor. And as I said before, development and underdevelopment is the opposite side of the same coin. In South Africa, I mean, a clear example is Sandton and Alexandria adjoining it. So these elements, as architects, I think it's important that we understand it. And how do we make these linkages? Even in small buildings that we do, they all have their role to play in this. So when we make decisions, I think we are in a position to advise on those decisions. So connection back to the entry, especially in Pietermaritzburg, the economic corridor, keeping in mind that linearity, economic corridors have great potential for capital retention. If you are away from the economic corridor, you are not going to retain capital. So it's important that we link back into the city. The next image, again, now we're going into the projects that we have worked on. It's something that Professor Roelof Eitenbogart at the UCT used to say, that you will only design one building in your life, and every building will be an improvement on that one building. And with hindsight, I can see that reasoning and the logic. We are always trying to improve, improvise on an idea. This is a mosque in the old neighborhood I grew up in, on the upper end of Church Street. What you see on the top left in red is the mosque. And it's quite a small building. Just above that red spot, you'll see there's a U, and that was the school. And, I always thought that was quite a big building. But when I visited recently again, I suddenly realized the school is the size of 3 small houses. On the perimeter of that urban block, where the commercial edge above it was housing. So it was a self-contained urban module, commerce, social, economic, all those things wrapped into one. Quite an amazing space. The classic example of orienting the mosque, rotating it. The mosque is not visible from the street. So it was an absolutely beautiful urban space. The image on the bottom left is another mosque that we worked on the lower end of Church Street. Again, the mosque is not visible. Adjoining the mosque is a small school, and then the commercial around it. So it's a little caravanserai. And the lesson to be learned is all those items, social, economical, political, educational, are all integrated. As soon as we start fragmented, it has enormous social repercussions. I think those repercussions in South Africa, we are fully aware of it. Then in this neighborhood, when the group areas came, I think the whole area sort of began to fall apart. And I think the wood that it created quite a serious problem. you had the Department of Community Development, ironically called Community Development, that froze the entire area. I think the similar happened to the Grey Street area, where no restoration or repair work of building was allowed. And of course, the group areas was implemented quite strongly. So I think this is what happened to the neighborhood. So when I had come back from my studies, the elders in the neighborhood said, look, we need to restore that mosque, otherwise it's going to fall apart. Obviously, the mosque was within that scope of the community development that froze any work to be carried out. So because it was hidden over there in that center of that space, we quietly restored the building. And as the contractor on site said, the only thing that held this building together was prayer. So we were fortunate to do that restoration, and an opportunity to thank two particular brothers, the Doda brothers, who really put their life savings and not build the new house because they had to move out of the area. They took the money and actually helped the restoration. And one of the first clients, one of the earliest clients of mine, absolutely amazing people that put the entire project was funded by them, which was quite amazing. And I'm always grateful to them for giving us the opportunity to do the restoration. So the next image. So when we talk about archaeology, there's various ways of looking at it. So when it came to the design of the prayer rug, the musalla, what the Doda brothers said, look, you're a designer, why don't you attempt designing it? So it was one of the first musallas that were totally redesigned from new. And in our research, what we found out, there is a chapter in the Quran called the verse of light, meaning the different veils of light, that meanings that are implied in the Quran. And that was verse number or chapter number 24. Then within that chapter, there's the verse of parable of light and parable of darkness. And again, 12 and 12 gives you 24. So there was something magical embedded in that verse. And it was really the written word giving rise to physical form. So when you look at the image on the right, you will see the pattern that we had designed. That's the pattern on the top middle. The one on the left is a classical musalla design, which is a niche with a lamp in it, an olive oil lamp. And that's described in the Quran accordingly. So we said, look, this is really the genesis of it. So let's use the genesis, or as you might want to, as I would like to explain it, as the archaeology of what it means. And then we create something. And I think I am in many ways modernist. So the design was quite modern in its making. So again, I'd like to thank the Doda brothers for that. The next image. This was one of our earlier buildings, a very small corner buildings in the city center for a group of 3 doctors, an extremely small site using red brick. And I think we enjoyed doing this building. It's quite anthropomorphic in a way that you see a human image in that elevation. So I think we enjoyed that one. The next image, we have done quite a fair share of restoration in the city center. And again, it has always been a learning and an educational exercise to understand how elements of a building come together and documenting these buildings, again, in the fashion of an archaeologist. So we were quite fortunate in that sense. The next image is a project that was a design competition, and we had won for the head office for the Department of Transport. We tried using as close to the red brick as possible. The building is quite, it creates a little bit of an urban square in front of the building. It's a 5-story building with the basement parking, but the parking is also a social space under the building at ground level where functions are carried out. So it was enjoyable building. The entire building is set up on a 900 millimeter grid. If you look at the handrails, the vertical mullion of the handrail, it ties up with the mullion of the aluminium windows. And if you go into the building, that mullion on the 900 module ties up with the ceiling T in the vertical. Horizontally, it's all set out on a 900 module. So, it was really, I think, when we really enjoyed coordinating the building in that fashion. So very simple building, floating roof, a base, etc. The next image was a building that we were asked to design the office of the Premier's building, which was previously the Reserve Bank. Extremely solidly built building, quite amazing building. And it was quite a challenge providing all the functions within a Reserve Bank building, but one that we again enjoyed, having also carried out work on the interior. So that was quite a beautiful building to work on. The next building, this was a building for Amgeni Water, where they required there was a security upgrade on this building. And, security has had quite an amazing impact on our profession, because we're always thinking about security. And I think, and I hope that in future, that idea that buildings should be defensive, especially public buildings, let's hope we come a time when that shouldn't be their priority, but rather about communities. The building, we had taken the entrance and covered it with the timber wood, below. Adjoining the building was a small fountain, and we had clad around the fountain with Pietermaritzburg shale, as it were. And it gave quite a nice soft entrance to the Amgeni Water complex. The next image, with the city hall, again, the archaeology of the city, we had designed the council chambers, detailed it quite extensively, designed all the fittings, etc. A nice project to work on. So it was, again, the archaeology of it. The next building was the old magistrates' court that had deteriorated quite badly. There was also a fire in the building when we got there. So again, it was restored. It was where the first President Mandela was incarcerated from the capture site out in Howick. So Mandela spent the night in this building. So it has a fair amount of history attached to it. The next building, it was a building, again, competition for design. The restoration of Villa Sanssouci, which was really part of a small holding, a mini farm, as it were. And we were to restore and add extensions for the Ingonyama Trust. And at the time, it was King Zweletini, a wonderful client. And we had designed it. And the next image shows you the Villa Sanssouci on the right and the building adjoining that. Villa Susi has got a small basement, and in that basement, the walls coming out of the ground were all built with shale. So what you don't see in the Victorian building is what's under the ground. So we have decided that the building itself, the new building, should pick up what's underground and extrude it up above ground. So the entire building is clad with shale. Again, a floating cap and a glass ribbon as the middle, and then a plinth being the shale. So that gives you an idea of the building. And again, it was a building that we enjoyed working on. The next image. The next image is the restoration of Villa Susi. Absolutely beautiful building. It was the set for the movie Zulu Dawn. If anyone might remember that, it was a long time back. I think it was Michael Caine that acted in that movie. Incidentally, I virtually grew up as a youngster around cinema because my father managed the cinema. So I understood movies quite well, and we maybe will have a time to talk about that one. So that's the Villa Susi, the restoration. The next image. The next image is the new building attached to Villa Susi. So when you enter the property, you actually see this building, and it is almost like a large boundary wall that contains the historic building behind it. The shale cladding, the screen on the left, if you look slightly in the bottom, you'll see there's a big wheel just below that. So manually, you can control that screen by turning the large wheel. And that's facing west. So it's well used. On the right, there's some images of the interior. We used a fair amount of furniture made out of Inguni hides, which the king quite enjoyed. And again, it was a building that we really put ourselves into that building. The next image. This is a small building for a library in Alexandra Road in Pietermaritzburg. It's a Victorian building attached to which will be the new proposed library. And the image on the right top, we've extended the street lawn into the city, and you'll see there's a large sliding screen again on the image on the top right, and that sliding screen closes the library and also acts as a screen as it is facing west. A nice building we've worked on, and hopefully soon it will be put to construction. The next image, I'm not sure why I tend to follow Adolf Loos, but it was a quotation that was an introduction to a parking garage, quite a functional building. But I liked what Adolf Loos said. Only a small part of architecture belongs to art, the tomb and the monument. Everything else fulfills the function is to be excluded. So we said, well, look, it's a functional building. Let's make the best of it. And the next image, that's the building on the bottom left in red. It's the head office for the Department of Public Works. The project included the parking garage, repurposing of the badminton courts, and there was a 10-story high-rise attached to that. So it was, again, as an archaeologist, you expose what is on the site, find the connections, and then you give the form to the building. So the next image, What is in red, the red on the right, was a brownfield existing parking lot on the ground, which was extruded upward 5 stories. And on the left, what you see in red was the badminton court that was made into a functions facility, and all had to be stitched together. They were quite disjointed in many ways. The next image shows you the parking lot on the right, the badminton court repurposed into a functions room on the left. And if you look just about to the left of the parking lot, you'll see there's a little building attached to, there's a link. That is actually a 10-story high-rise building that we had done under a different phase of the project. The next image shows you all the buildings which we attempted to stitch together. Again, in a way that an archaeologist might do. How do you fit the pieces together from different times in history, etc.? We used a red brick, not the original Pietermaritzburg red, but the more recent red, as it were. And the next image shows the parking garage with the high rise on the above it. The next image, the section through the parking garage. The next image, that's the old badminton court made into a courtyard. And that courtyard overlooks, and you'll see it in the later images, overlooks the Pietermaritzburg, Alexandra Park, the cricket oval. And whenever there's a cricket match, you could actually see the match from here at a distance, be it. So that little view into the cricket oval was planned so that we do see it. The next image, the parking garage was designed as a skin, a perforated skin that ventilates the parking garage naturally, held together in steel. And we took it over the full height of the building. And the air bricks that you see there were purpose-made for the project. Out of concrete, we would have preferred the old clay air bricks, which is no longer produced. It's got a much more subtle finish, but we were happy with doing it in color in concrete. The next image gives you a visual feel of the parking garage on the left. The next image, you could see the sense of color of the terracotta concrete blocks as a continuity of what you see across the street. The next image is a view from the back, showing the parking garage. The next image, I think that's quite a nice view of the parking garage in a little lane that looks quite beautifully into a Victorian building. And that perspective of the view, one could see the elevation almost as an extension, announcing that beautiful Victorian building at the end of the road. The next image, again, I think there was a certain precision in getting those air bricks to fit perfectly into the steel. It was achieved quite successfully, I thought, but a lot of energy went into getting the entire team, the contractors, etc., to put the project together to achieve that precision. and it worked quite well. The next image, again, the view looking up the building, the perforated skin, I think it worked quite well. The next image. The next image is of the interior of the same building. Although the outside was quite monotone, the inside was quite, the stairwells we used quite luminous colors. So it added a flash of color to the interior. On the left-hand side, the sun coming around the building always cast these beautiful shadows. And you almost felt the sun inside the parking lot, which is quite rare for a parking lot. You never quite feel the sun inside the building. The next image is an image at night. You actually see the inside of the building, and that's the blue stairwell. And what's interesting is that we got light sensors inside the building. So at night, if you drove into the building, the lights, as you drove through, the lights came on and off. So you would see the lights going up the building on and off in a spiraling fashion. So if you are sensitive to that, you'd stand outside and you'll quite enjoy that cars moving inside the building. The next image is showing the stitching of the buildings. And in that courtyard, we introduced a glass screen that looks directly into the Cricket Oval and Alexandra Park. So it's quite a beautiful view from inside the courtyard. You could also see the little staircase on the left that connects the street to the courtyard. So when there's a function, one would go through this entrance and not through the main entrance. The next image is of the staircase linking the street to the functions area. And you could see in the distance the Victorian neighborhood with red bricks. The next image is the interior courtyard that overlooks the functions room and links the parking garage to the high-rise Department of Works head office, and it links up with the functions room. The next image is the interior of the functions room, which is really an inward space as opposed to the parking garage, which opens outward. The next image is of the interior. Again, quite a beautiful space. Incidentally, the space works so well that if you had to go there in the afternoon, you find children that are waiting for their parents at the entrance, and they quietly end up in this space. They like doing their homework in the space and actually having a little catnap. It's an absolutely beautiful space. And I always find pleasure in finding these youngsters sitting here doing their homework or just taking a little nap. They just enjoy the space. And I think when youngsters enjoy a space, you got the recipe right. The next image is a project that for the head office for Sandra, it was a bid that we had won, unbuilt, but a very interesting project when we again talk about the archaeology of place and city. What you are seeing there is the road networks of South African National Road Agency throughout the country. And it's an amazing, it looks like veins, the heart of the country breathing through those superb highways that we have. And I think linearity, again, is so critical as the first lines on the ground, be it if we talk about the Silk Road or if we talk about the spice routes. We all know the economic potential and how those routes left their mark on history, on place. And these roads are amazing treasure of our country. Absolutely amazing how they connect us together. So that was the first image that we thought that is important for Sandra. The entry highway being the busiest road in the Republic, and the economic potential, the political, social, all those images sit in the first lines on the ground that connect place. So I think that's a beautiful image of roads. The next image, the image on the left it's something that as South Africans, we are very fortunate. We have this enormous country with a rural and an urban population. And as in my introduction, I raised the point that we need to create the linkages that begin to unite all these areas into a homogeneous country in every way that implies. So the image on the right is just an image of highways as not being simply monofunctional, but multifunctional. I think we're beginning to understand what the green energy is beginning to do in the world. So this idea of the countryside is becoming more and more important to the city. Cities cannot exist without the country. Our farmlands, really, we owe enormous debt to our farming community. And I think the importance of those farming community, the linkages with the city, will become more and more important. I think we're beginning to realize now that oil fields will definitely be replaced by solar fields. So those solar fields are actually, be it sunflower or be it solar panels, those are going to be the new infrastructure for countries. And we are enormously blessed, enormously blessed with skills in our farming community, in our city community. We are blessed with enormous skills. And I think we are really, I just can't emphasize how well we are endowed. It's a question of building on that richness to create a city that we all can be proud of. The next image, the image shows the site in the middle of your picture. It's at the interchange on the entry highway. The next image is it's the images of the site. It gives you a sense of the site. A typical felt, as it were, right? The next image, we actually, from the design point of view, we wanted the entire building to face directly onto the highway so that from any room of the building, you could see the highway. So we had to, it required green building compliance. So there were a lot of studies carried out of how we were going to address that. The next image is the DNA of the site, the DNA of design. And those two green elements that you are seeing there is actually the building. And the next image thank you. That image shows the site. The site is on the right, but the entire site will be developed by the municipality. And that gives you the layering almost in a horizontal but parallel to the highway. So the construction or the building shape took that linearity of the highway onto the side. So the next image, you could see the site now, the building in black, right up against the highway. And then you got parking above it and parking under the building. So in terms of the footprint, we tried to minimize the footprint and allow parking under the building as well. The next image were a few hand sketches with the beginnings of the building, its shape, and yeah. The next image, there was a certain planned logic, the services, functionality, view onto the highway. The view onto the highway was an absolutely beautiful view. It was quite kinetic. If you stand on the highway, imagine you have a large picture window. You are sitting within a space that's quiet. It's double glazing with a glass shield in front of it. And it was, it's quite a kinetic experience because you see these cars moving in front of you. And those cars, vehicles, are really what SANRAL is in charge of. They have a control center that was planned for the middle of the building, where they are able to link up the entire network and visually see it on all those cameras. So the entire road network can be viewed from the nerve center inside this building. So that we thought was quite important, the kinetic nature of that lifeblood on the highway and what SANRAL was about. So we thought that link between the two was critical. The next image was the plan beginning to shape up. We had the rooftop was with solar panels, a green space on the roof, and all the offices have a view into onto the highway. The next image, in giving form to this building, we began to look at the highway landscape, and we are all familiar with what we are seeing there. It's a typical highway landscape, natural. These highways that we've got go through this absolutely beautiful natural landscape. The concrete of the highway that we are all familiar with, the famous SANRAL embedded into the concrete. So we thought the building should begin to talk to that language. The next image. The next image is of the building, and you could see it overlooks the highway. It's 3 glass layers, the double glazing behind and a glass shield in front of it. That glass shield, the idea was that you can embed a color into that glass. And what we had hoped to do was to take the organic material around the building, explore the organic, take the DNA of that organic material, and take the DNA in its mathematical form and embed it in the glass. So the glass will reflect the organic nature of its surrounding. So you could see, we are trying to fuse the building in a very modern way. And if you look at the twin building in the back, you will see that you are able to look through the building in shadow. So it was a visual building that you will look onto this kinetic experience of the city, of the highway. The next image is aerial view. You could see the Berg in the distance, Maritzburg just in the background, and it's embedded in really the country. And of course, if you look at that airplane going past, we thought it will be a little tribute to our first president. You can see the number on that airplane, if you can see it. The next image is a quotation from shaker basketry. You would know the Amish people in Pittsburgh. And it's a quotation I'd like to read because I think it's a beautiful quotation. The basket exemplifies the rule of thumb of shaker design. Don't make something if it's not useful, but if it is both necessary and useful. Don't hesitate to make it beautiful as long as the decorative elements are an inherent part of design, and don't interfere with function. To me, it's quite a modernist idea, and I think the Bauhaus has been compared to the Amish environment, etc. I find that there's such simplicity. When you look at the Amish shaker chairs, those beautiful made chairs, it's designed with this intention, that chair must be made so comfortable that when an angel sits on that chair, the angel will be comfortable. Now, to me, that's absolutely magic, if we can achieve that. So that is the intention. The next image, is that object, as Aldo Rossi calls it, the object of heritage, the city, the object par excellence. And that red dot is located close to that entry. And it's really, as again, if I quote Professor Rudolf Bogart, he always uses the term raisins in the bread. So the next image was quite an interesting image. It's an image of shoemakers repairing and making shoes. And on the other side, you could see there's an exchange of shoes. And I always find interesting, the shoemaker's shoe and the parable of the shoemaker's shoe and the shoemaker's family as having holes on their shoes. So this particular image, I quite liked it as an introduction to the next project. And of course, you will see I've highlighted the shoemakers there with their shoes. So you could see the blue shoes there, right? So it's of the shoemaker's own shoes. The next image is the site, which was a property that was belonged to the family, and it had fallen into disrepair. And this just around COVID. And as we all know, that COVID has had an enormous impact globally. I think when the history of COVID is written, we will understand what it meant to the built environment. It was as though the earth went into a coma for a good few months. And it had an enormous impact on our profession and the country at large. So there was this economic pause. Coming out of it, we decided, look, let's try and do something so we could get the show on the road. So with the help of two nephews, we formed a little company, and that company self-developed, putting together very skilled people, and we managed that project. So I learned very quickly from two youngsters, nephews of mine, who had business science and a lot of street smart, that I call them project managers. But they very quickly learned that project managers can tell architects what to do. But I had to reel them in and tell them, look, I'm your uncle, so please understand, I come above the project managers. They understood that very quickly. So the next image is the site, which was 4 properties. I'd imagine these were around 1950s, around there, with 4 separate sites, which we consolidated into one. And that was a projected footprint, no master plan per se, but really an organic idea of how the site could be developed. And that became the start point of what needs to be done. The view on the extreme right, the future is what it could be, not necessarily what it would be, but it gives you a good feel of where the direction of the site is going. The next image is the image of the site, and you could see the types of building. We had engaged with AMAFA on these, and we were able to get a demolition approval. And of course, once we realized that these, coming out of COVID, you really understood the economics of things. And that economic pause suddenly made us review and say, look, these buildings have got enormous value. And why don't we take what is there and make it work for us? And it was really an economic decision to take a shoestring budget, get onto a site, and hopefully convert a shoestring budget into a golden thread. Of course, one also had to work with the municipality, and we are, again, enormously indebted to the town planning department, the city's building section, for giving us the leeway to proceed with the project, which was a new approach to how one addresses heritage, that creativity can be applied to give you environments at economical cost that meets all requirements. You know, as architects, we got a certain approach. As the municipality planning and building, they've got certain visions. Good projects come together when all these visions come together in a harmonious way. So we are thankful to the city, the planning, building, and AMAFA for engaging with us and guiding us to ensure that the project is successful. So the next image is what I call embedded memory. And out of that understanding of the built environment, one begins to realize, you know, as they say in Zen, if you look at it once, it doesn't look interesting. You look at it second time, it looks fairly interesting. And as you look at it for the third and fourth time, you suddenly realize that there's a whole lot of embedded memory in these buildings. How do we begin to expose the embedded memory? And that was the journey of this project, with a very young team, new ideas, and I think we must also give credit to those new ideas, a younger generation that looks at things very differently. So the next image is finding those the existing layers or traces of the past and project them as traces of the future or relics of the future. And suddenly you begin to see that there's magic in buildings that looked quite pedestrian, quite ordinary, but as soon as you strip them, suddenly you begin to see there's a lot of magic and a lot of history, a lot of embedded memory in these buildings. And again, very similar to a jazz musician, and a jazz musician, actually, there's no written music or written score. As the music goes along, you find the opportunity and you make it work. So I quite like that. There's a story of Miles Davis. You would all know, the coolest guy in music. He was playing and he had a young trumpeter working with him. And the young trumpeter, played the wrong note. And, if you recall, if you had a glance from Miles Davis, you would actually melt. But anyway, he had a one look at this youngster, and he took the error and converted into the music. He embedded it into the music and weaved it into the music, and it didn't look like an error. So it is that approach, that you're not going to get everything right. What you get wrong, correct it and move on. And it's a very forgiving aesthetic, if I can put it to you that way. So that this jazz idea it's a very forgiving aesthetic, both in musical terms and in architectural terms. The picture on the middle bottom, one of those buildings had 3 columns attached to it. And there was a building that was being demolished in the city, and we managed to salvage a concrete column, and it didn't quite meet the diameter, so we cut it in the middle, glued it together, and patched it with epoxy, the gap that you see in the middle. So it was all these magical pieces that came together in the making of this building. The next image is where we had salvaged a lot of the buildings where we had done demolition. We took the red brick buildings and began to use it in different ways to make the new additions, as it were. So we reused all the red buildings on site. We were able to salvage other red buildings, bricks for the site. And incidentally, these red buildings were made historically about 500-600 meters away from the site, the old coral brick site, the famous coral brick site in Pietermaritzburg that produced all those salmon color bricks. So, it was, again, you are connecting history, finding out the archaeology and projecting it into the future. So it was a lot of the fabric that we began to understand the poetry of that. The next image, the next image is, you could see the figure ground, quite simple. The 3 buildings on the left bottom, there were 2 buildings, and we put an infill into those buildings. The buildings to the right of those buildings, in the middle, there was an existing building there. And then we had to, it wasn't in good condition, so we brought that building down. But within that building, we protruded up a new building. The building, more or less in the middle, was a double garage, a fair-sized garage, which we repurposed. And the footprint on the extreme left top, that's a pedal court. And on the right, the dark gray building, that's a building that will be developed in the future. The entire site, with all these disjointed elements, we managed to salvage a fair amount of paving from a site in town. We used that together with gray stone to stitch all these buildings into one entity. It might not quite look like that on the plan, but when you see it 3-dimensionally, you'll appreciate it. So with a limited budget, a shoestring, as it were, we found the joy in making. Again, as architects, sometimes I think, and we've been talking about this in the office, we try a little too hard sometimes. There is a certain joy in simplicity. And I think, as Renzo Piano once said, simplicity is the result of hard work. It is not a point of departure, it's a point of arrival. So I think simplicity, we're beginning to understand it. And I think as you practice your craft in later years, you really appreciate good design that's simple. It has a lot of value. So the next image, again, very simple, a monotone, the famous red brick, black. It's got trees. The site was quite unique. It's a part of the city which was historically farmlands, orange grove, avocado trees. You might notice in the neighborhood orange trees, but the avocados are definitely still there. We've had a few on site, which bear, absolutely beautiful avocados. So all this, again, the history of the site, its archaeology, and monotone, and the color. When you look at color, if you enter the inside of these buildings, it's absolutely magical with color. There are 3 or 4 tenants on the site. The one which is a magical place called Sculpt Spa, absolutely beautiful on the inside. Really, it's worth a visit. It's very popular, and really, you got to visit that Sculpt Spa. Absolutely magical. Then we had the coffee shop called Next, and that coffee shop, it's rated in yesterday's newspaper I read that it's rated #1 in the city and the Midlands, and that's quite an achievement for a coffee shop within 1 year. Attached to that is the Nextly pizza shop, again quite amazing, and adjoining that in the next image. That gives you a general view, and you could see the bottom right. You'll see the 2 buildings, the existing and the black panel in the middle is the additions. The next building is the coffee shop, and I must tell you, they make a San Sebastian cake in that shop. Absolutely magical. You got to taste this. I've just opened up a Next Coffee in Florida Road. So if you are in the Durban area, please make a show of visiting that franchise. Next, absolutely magical. And then it shows you the double volume, the staircase of the interior. Again, very simple elements. It had to be done in a very simple, manageable way. And we had a construction team. And of course, none of these things happened without the hands that put the bricks together. So, all that is respected. The next image is of the gymnasium, and all the buildings we handed over as white boxes. And of course, the gym was given a white box, and he promptly turned it into a black box. So a gentleman, again, a really personality, as it were, Rick from the gymnasium, with all these tattoos and a physique, really something to look at. And that little gym, and you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you, they have got 2 of the patrons, or 3, that will be representing South Africa in international weightlifting. So it's just amazing that a small area can strive to achieve a certain level of excellence. I think, again, it's about when things come together in quite a harmonious way, magic happens. The next image is of the exterior, and you could see the pyramid buildings in the bottom left and the new coffee shop on the right. So that gives you a good feel of the exterior from the street. The next image is of the courtyard, what I would call the interior courtyard. The view with the 4 columns that I mentioned, the pizza place looking over into the coffee shop. The coffee shop is actually a restaurant and a drive-through, which was in a small area. I think we managed it quite well. We have done quite a bit of steel work. What you see in the bottom is the bicycle racks, the handrail, which was bent to take a certain shape, and the drive-through on the bottom right. The next image. So I think that gives you a feel of the site. And I think if you are in any of those coffee shops, please try the San Sebastian. And believe me, when you taste it, close your mouth, savor it for a good few seconds, and believe me, you will see Marco Polo in front of you sharing the meal with you. And I think that is the end of my presentation, so thank you for that. And those are the shoes, the architect shoes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ismail, for what a lovely talk. I will start with your very last project. Well, congratulations on getting an award of mention for this one, just as
Yes.
there was recently.
No, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And look, I must say there's fingerprints of a lot of people that have worked in our offices, fingerprints of the engineers, the quantity surveys, all of these people. Those are the people that make projects.
Lovely.
So I must acknowledge that in a big way.
No, thank you, Ismail. It must be a privilege for an architect to actually work on a project that you have control of, just because I mean this project has so much of what I would call honesty. It's true to its context, it's true to scale, and some of the good things that you talk about as you experience the project comes from the fact that it's welcomed as such. It's not an imposed project. It just fits into the fabric of Maritzburg. It must be a privilege to work on a job like that.
I think, look, a lot of, as a profession, if we are given free rein, and I say that responsibly, we will create those type of environments. The thing that worries me is we are becoming distant from that position where we were in control of it. And again, it's the idea of the shoemaker. Again, when I talk about movies, we all know the movies of Ridley Scott, Gladiator, the Alien films. He started out as a movie director, but in more recent years, he's now the producer of the movie. So I think as architects, we should be beginning to take our position in that space. We must not abdicate our position in that space. And I think, when you do buildings, as you rightly pointed out, there's a certain joy in that, and we need to bring that joy to our profession in that way.
Thank you. Very, very good example. Richard, I see you have a hand up. You can go ahead.
Mic on. Hi.
Yes.
Morning, everybody. I'm really moved by this presentation. It starts with, and I'm sorry, I'm going to ramble for 2 minutes. Meeting Eleanor Rocky from Enrique Morales' office, and when she speaks about working in Barcelona and designing the marketplaces and also the Scottish Parliament buildings, they speak about archaeology of place and go deep into the ground to inspire from what happened historically back up and reflected back up into the building through pattern. And I was very moved by that and how you refer to that. But I wrote 5 words down while you were talking, in no particular order: restraint, discipline, care, service, and logic, woven together with sensitivity and artistry. Absolutely beautiful work. For me, an architecture of socialism or society. Recently, we were exposed to, much like a flasher, the architecture of fascism or the individual. So in comparison, this work, and I'm not going to mention what talk that was recently, but, such a stark contrast of sensitivity to place and material. And you've done your city a great service, sir. Thank you very much. Any young architect in this talk should really take note of how important our work is, one of service and one of reflection of place, and very seldom a reflection of self. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Another striking project, Ismail, is the complex public works. Yes. Which is quite contemporary and light, but very true to its context at the same time. The texture, the color says PMB, but it's a very contemporary and very light at the same time. And the treatment of the parking lot I quite enjoyed. It's a very pragmatic solution, I think, and at the end of the day, with delight of what you are looking at. Well done with that one as well.
Oh, thank you for that. Again, I'd like to thank the Department of Public Works for giving us that opportunity. It was, again, having sessions with them, working together to achieve what was, I think it was a economical building that worked well for them, and its contribution to the city is really, it's a liked building.
So if you were to take just a step further, there you have analyzed Maritzburg, and your interventions are very, very meaningful to the context. You touched a bit about smart cities, where we actually go out and do an artificial city, essentially.
Yes.
How would you just further take that talk of a smart city being what you actually have to use in your city, analyze it and make it meaningful, so to speak, instead of trying to create an artificial city and call it smart? Hope your comment on that.
Yeah, I think, look, we are all familiar with this. Our cities need to be cared for. There's enormous embedded elements, and it goes without saying, we need to ensure that our infrastructure is really up to speed. We need to treasure, protect, and enhance our infrastructure, be it digital infrastructure. We all know what water, energy, those are the things. The skeleton, the DNA that is embedded in these cities are really world-class, second to none, tried and tested. All we are looking at is, let's make the same cities work more efficiently. And we can't do it single-handedly. I think it needs a lot of role players coming from different fields to come together to achieve that. But the idea of taking, especially in South Africa, to take a greenfield site and say it's going to be the new smart city, I don't think that is realistic. I think we need to put energy, and let's take care of our existing buildings. From there, it will develop into a smart city. We take all the smart cities of the globe, be it New York, Shanghai, London. Those are not new cities. Those are historic buildings. If you take Barcelona, historic building cities, and yet they are all smart. So the idea of creating a new invention on a greenfield site, I'm not convinced.
I'm with you there. It's almost like if you don't exhaust the capacity of a city, it's almost like biting an apple and leaving it and going to another one.
Yes.
Biting an apple and leaving it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Ruben?
Good morning. What an inspiring talk. And it just shows the incredible body of work built up over what I'd reckon is about nearly 50 years, Ismail. Thank you for that. I mean, I think we've waited for this for a long, long time. And just to see somebody start the presentation from where we should all be speaking about, and it's about the city. And I like but again, it's about Ismail's personality, just the humility and simplicity, where he talks about things which are very, very intense and intellectual. And I think we must all learn from that. There's no loudness, but very, 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 very firm political views. I mean, just talking about the city and his kind of quiet rejection of this notion of smart city. I remember Amira Osman once telling me that she gave a talk. She was invited to a conference on smart cities, and her talk was on dumb cities. So I think it's straight away there's a linkage there, and there's a story around how his work has come up and how he's done this Ismail's done this entire trip from a city that's very close to his heart, and then came back to home with this talk, which is most incredible. And thank you. Thank you so much for this.
No, Ruben, thank you for that. I know it's a long time in the making, but as I told Skura before the meeting, Skura, there's a word in the English dictionary, it's called duress. So Skura has been putting a lot of pressure.
Thank you, Ruben. Any other comments, colleagues? Any comments or colleagues? It's true, Ruben, that the talk is quite intellectual, but my head is not hurting at all because it's delivered in such humility. Any other comment? So, in a nutshell, Ismail, where do you see PMB going forward? What thoughts have you had in mind? The city is growing, there are developments on the way. Where do you see it going forward now?
Skura, that's quite a difficult one. I mean, it's I think it's experiencing the same convulsions, as it were, that other cities are experiencing. I think at the end of the day, there's just one term: really take care of the city. If the city is taken care of, I think things will come together. It's simple things. Let's maintain the city. Let's keep the city clean. Let's, where there's marketplaces, provide marketplaces for people to carry out economic activity, but take care and pride in our city. It's just that simple. Cleaning a city is not a difficult thing. We are seeing a lot of business leaving the city, and I think we need to act in a holistic way. And it's not impossible. I think our first president said it quite nicely. It's not impossible until you see somebody having done it, then you realize it's possible. So it is very possible.
Lovely. No, I think your talk was quite eye-opening today, Ismail. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Barring any other comments or questions, we'd just like to thank you, firstly, for exemplary work that you've done, and also being able to make time to talk to us this morning. For yourself and your practice, thank you.
Yeah, Skura, thank you, and thank you for watching. I appreciate it.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, colleagues, and thank you for joining. We will see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. How